So I'm here in the car park of the AXA Training Ground where Arne Slot has just held his press conference ahead of his first competitive Anfield game as Liverpool manager. That is, of course, against Brentford this Sunday. And as ever, the topic of conversation at this press conference wasn't really much about the match itself or the opposition or the opposition's manager or players. It was, of course, about all the other issues that surrounded Liverpool Football Club. And, of course, the most important of those at the moment is the fact that there is a week left in the transfer window and Liverpool still haven't done any business yet. So, of course, Arne Slot got a bit of a grilling on transfers today in his press conference. And I think that's probably the best place to start, really, in terms of what he said about that. Because in reality, it was quite a lot, although in terms of the actual substance, maybe didn't give too much away. I mean, the first question up, he was asked about Giorgi Mamardashvili, of course, the Valencia goalkeeper that Liverpool are known to be chasing. A deal thought to be close on that front, but no confirmation club side in terms of that being done. And Arne Slot was asked about the possibility of Mamardashvili being a Liverpool player, and his response was, if a deal is done, then you will hear from us. So, nice and simple, to the point, keeping his cards close to his chest on that one. Didn't want to give too much away. So I'm sure if we do hear any Slot quotes on Mamardashvili, it will be after that deal is done. As I say, there is an expectation that will be done, but it isn't done yet. So nothing from the manager on that front. He was also asked about the fact that Liverpool haven't done any transfers yet. They haven't had any incoming signings, and said, the question was basically, you don't really seem worried about that fact. No concern about the fact that Liverpool haven't added to a squad to make it better. And he said, his response was no, because I trust the team. So, very much he was saying, making the point that, look, he's inherited a very good and very young squad from Jurgen Klopp that he believes he can get further development out of. Obviously not ruling out the possibility of incoming transfers, and he very much kept to the line that Liverpool are working on things, but he's also got real big faith that he can get more out of the squad that he's got at his disposal. So we'll have to see, of course, if that's true, or whether Liverpool do get those signings over the line. I know everyone wants that, and everyone believes that this squad needs to be added to. And I think most observers can see that a squad that finished third in the league last season, you'd like to see some players brought in, wouldn't you, to add to that and give them an extra chance of going a little bit further, maybe challenging Arsenal and Manchester City for a little bit longer and not falling away from the race. So I do think it's important to get signings in, but as I say, Arne Slot doesn't seem to be too worried about that. Now, obviously something Liverpool have been doing in this transfer window is selling players, selling quite a lot of young players. Obviously you think of the likes of Bobby Clark, Fabio Carvalho, Sepp Vandenberg, all their moves have been confirmed in the last week or so, and they've all been departures. And he was asked about that in terms of, I know some supporters have been worried about the idea that Liverpool are letting so many young players go, so much young talent. Could they end up living to regret that? But, if those players go on to become great. And his response on this was kind of that, look, these players need to play to develop, to reach the level that they could potentially reach, and they're not going to get those minutes at Liverpool when you have the likes of Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah in front of you in those positions. Or you think about, Virgil van Dijk for Sepp Vandenberg, Konate, Quansah in that centre-half position, Joe Gomez as well. He's got a lot of competition there. Fabio Carvalho, very much seen as a left winger. You had Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota, Cody Gakpo, even Darwin Núñez maybe can play out there. So I think the reality is for those players, and this is very much the point that Slot was trying to make, is they aren't going to reach the potential if they stay at Liverpool. They aren't going to get the minutes they need to do that. They aren't going to become the best versions of themselves. And they, as well, players who've been out on loan, they got used to playing football regularly. They want to keep doing that, and they're not going to get that at Liverpool. So that was really Slot's reasoning why those players were allowed to go. And he said in the case of Vandenberg and Carvalho, of course, have both joined this weekend's opponents, Brentford. He actually hopes they don't play him and hopes they don't play well as well, because obviously that will come back to bite Liverpool a little bit. But I thought his reasoning was very fair on why Liverpool have let them go. And another, in terms of potential outgoings that's being talked about at the moment, is Joe Gomez. We know of interest from a number of clubs, Newcastle among them, and potential for him to depart, particularly as he wasn't in the squad last weekend. He was left out. Now, interesting, when Slot was asked about this, he actually suggested that one of the big reasons that Joe Gomez wasn't in the squad last week was because of his training load. He hasn't been able to train fully after having come back from the Euros, came back from his break obviously quite late, one of the later players to come back with England, having got to the final. And they're just trying to be managing his training load and being careful with him, and because of course he didn't play at the Euros much either, so he hasn't got that sharpness there. So that, according to Arne Slot, is one of the reasons he's left out, maybe more than in terms of the potential outgoing transfer, though of course you would expect the manager to say that. And he was asked directly, look, do do you expect Joe Gomez to leave the club or stay before the transfer window closes? And he said, you know, at the moment I expect him to stay, but, and this I think is the key quote, everything can change. I do think that's one to really keep an eye on between now and the end of the window with Joe Gomez. I just think, you know, I've said it many times, but I think it's a real struggle to see him get in regular minutes over the course of a season if there isn't a massive injury crisis, and therefore I think Liverpool would be open to letting him go as well, and the player's clearly shown a desire as well to maybe move on and play more regular first team football. So as I say, that's one where the manager is being very coy on it, but I wouldn't rule that out between now and the end of the window that Joe Gomez does make that move. But of course, I'm very much of the belief that if they do let him go, a player who's that versatile and such a good character around the place as well, then Liverpool surely have to replace him to bolster that defence, because they can't go into a season with 3 centre-halves. We've seen that in recent memory, and they had all those injuries there, and the season kind of fell apart a couple of years ago, didn't it, on that basis? So really would like to see them strengthen if they did let Joe Gomez go, and I do think that's a distinct possibility between now and August 30th. Now, another key talking point in the press conference while we're on the topic of centre-halves is Jarell Quansah. Of course, you will remember against Ipswich Town he was taken off at half-time and got a little bit of criticism for his first half performance, and Arne Slot was asked about that and said, you know, how was Quansah's reaction? And he said, look, he reacted in the way you would expect any player to react, and I think and he meant that very much in a positive way. He said he spoke immediately on the Sunday after the game and spoke about the reasons behind it, and he said, look, it wasn't a thing about Jarell Quansah's performance that I was trying to get the point across to the players at half-time. He said, I made that change to make us a little bit stronger in aerial duels, but he said the conversations he had with the players at half-time was focused on the fact that everybody could have won more duels. Everyone needed to up the game in that regard, and he just made that change tactically. But as he said, the criticism was aimed at all the players. And he said when he had that conversation with Quansah as well, another impressive element, I think, is that should have been a recovery day for Jarell Quansah, but he actually has to train that day and kind of get the game out of his system. And I think Slot was really impressed with that. Shows a great sort of attitude and work rate, doesn't it, really, and work ethic rather. And I think that sort of sums Jarell Quansah up, is that he's taken it on the chin that he was subbed at half time, but he's always looking to get better. He's always looking to make sure that doesn't happen to him again. So I thought that was a really interesting story. Another thing that came out about Quansah is actually that he did get a knock on Tuesday in training and couldn't train on Wednesday. So they're going to have a look at him, see if he can train today and see if he can make the squad against Brentford. So you could, I guess, cast him as a little bit of a doubt for this one, but we'll have to see whether he trains today. Hopefully he does. Hopefully he can come back into the squad and hopefully can make a positive impact after a disappointing one against Ipswich. Now, he is the only injury concern as far as we're aware out of the press conference, and only a minor doubt really. And I think that, again, keep emphasising this, that's hugely positive. So many injuries in the last couple of seasons, so if Liverpool can shake that off, then I still think they'll be stronger again. But they do surely still need to add to the squad as well, and time is running out on that front. Just a week to go. Of course, I will be back for the game on Sunday. Maybe we'll get some transfer news before then, maybe not, we'll have to see, or maybe in the few days that come after that. So if you don't subscribe to the channel, now's a really good time to get on board. I'll be there at Anfield for the game on Sunday, but also, as I say, hopefully a lot of transfer updates to come in terms of not just outgoings, but hopefully we do get some incomings over the line. Maybe Mamardashvili, maybe something else can be done as well. We will have to see. But as I say, the subscribe button is your friend in terms of keeping track of that. And if you can like the video as well, always massively helpful. And I will see you guys on Sunday, if not before, for the match, but then maybe a transfer update, we'll see. And I'll see you guys very, very soon.